I'm sure you've heard the news. In 2026, the Philippines might actually ban all Chinese nationals from its borders. What could possibly drive a nation to consider such a drastic move? And what would it mean for the country and the world if it happened? The year is 2026. A new dawn breaks over the Philippines, but the air is thick with anticipation. The world has changed, and so has the nation's place within it. The South China Sea simmers on the brink of conflict. Tensions have escalated between a rising superpower and a defiant archipelago. The waters now reflect the storm clouds of confrontation. No one expected what came next. President Marcos Jr. considered banning all Chinese nationals from the Philippines, a move that could redefine Asia's geopolitical landscape. This is not just geopolitics, it's a nation's struggle to assert its identity and protect its future. As the world holds its breath, the Philippines stands at the edge of a defining moment. The road to 2026 was paved with confrontation. In 2025, Chinese Coast Guard vessels escalated their tactics in the West Philippine Sea, turning resupply missions into gauntlets of survival. Water cannons battered Filipino boats, the world condemned, but Beijing ignored. The aggression spread to cyberspace. Philippine government websites faced relentless, state-sponsored cyber attacks traced to China. Hackers mapped infrastructure, probed defenses, and signaled that no part of the Philippines was beyond Beijing's reach. Intelligence agencies uncovered espionage, agents posing as businessmen, academics, and tourists, cultivating assets and co-opting officials. Law enforcement battled Chinese-linked organized crime, from illegal gaming to human trafficking. President Marcos, once balancing between Washington and Beijing, saw his options narrowing as public impatience grew. The stage was set for a decision once unthinkable, now seen by some as a national necessity. In late 2025, crisis after crisis hit the Philippines, shaking the nation's stability to its core. The Subic Bay incident exposed a Chinese vessel deploying surveillance near a key naval base, igniting a tense diplomatic standoff. Tensions soared as both sides faced off on the world stage. Beijing then suspended fruit imports, devastating farmers and rural communities overnight. Soon after, a top official was arrested for spying for China, shaking trust within the government. Paranoia swept Manila as fear and suspicion gripped the capital. Military, economic, and internal security crises collided, leaving leaders scrambling for answers. The government now considered a visa ban an extraordinary measure for extraordinary times. In tense, late-night meetings, the Malacanang Doctrine took shape. The president would use executive authority over immigration as a tool of national security. The policy wasn't a blanket ban, but a targeted restriction. Individuals with ties to the Chinese Communist Party, PLA, or state-linked enterprises would be barred. New visa applications from provinces linked to organized crime and illegal gaming would be suspended. Cyber attackers and suspected spies would be blacklisted. Student visas in sensitive fields would be temporarily suspended, mirroring US moves. The government emphasized this was a temporary, defensive measure, forced by relentless Chinese aggression. The message: the Philippines valued its ties with the Chinese people but could not ignore threats to its sovereignty. It was a gamble, but one the government felt it had to take. The leaked policy set off a global media firestorm. In Beijing, outraged state media called it a hostile act, warning of severe consequences. In the West, headlines framed the move as a bold stand against bullying. Solidarity with the Philippines echoed in Washington, Canberra, and Tokyo. Across Southeast Asia, anxiety reigned. Leaders feared economic fallout and regional instability. ASEAN unity was tested as the move exposed fractures between sovereignty and pragmatism. Financial networks warned of economic shocks, from tourism collapse to investment flight. The Philippines, often overlooked, was now at the center of the world's most dangerous flashpoint. The two Pacific superpowers responded in starkly different ways, each revealing their unique approach to crisis and influence in the region. Beijing's reaction was immediate and furious, threatening economic retaliation, tourism bans, and investment reviews. Chinese officials made it clear that any challenge to their interests would be met with swift and uncompromising measures. The Chinese Foreign Ministry denounced the move as a grave violation, vowing forceful countermeasures. Their rhetoric was sharp, signaling not just anger, but a willingness to escalate if provoked further. In contrast, Washington offered quiet support, affirming the Philippines' right to defend its sovereignty, but carefully avoiding inflammatory language that could further inflame tensions or provoke open confrontation. Behind the scenes, US military and intelligence support likely intensified, reinforcing alliance commitments. American warships patrolled the Pacific, and analysts monitored developments, ready to respond if the situation escalated. The Philippines now walked a tightrope, Beijing's threats of pain versus Washington's promise of partnership. Every decision carried risks, and the stakes for Manila had never been higher. The Marcos administration gambled that US backing would withstand Chinese retaliation, betting on the strength of its alliances to weather the storm. It was a test of alliances in a new Cold War, where every move was scrutinized and every word weighed for its global impact. The region held its breath, waiting to see which force would prove stronger, and how far each side was willing to go to defend its interests. The stakes, economic survival, security, and the future of the Indo-Pacific order, were felt not just in government halls, but on the streets and in the harbors of Manila. The world watched as the Philippines stood between an enraged dragon and a supportive eagle, its fate hanging in the balance as history unfolded. For ASEAN, Manila's move was a diplomatic earthquake. Privately, some members sympathized. Publicly, caution and anxiety prevailed. The ASEAN chair called for restraint and dialogue, a classic but unsatisfying response. Fears of Chinese economic retaliation and the breakdown of ASEAN unity loomed large. Manila's alignment with the US threatened to sideline the bloc, turning Southeast Asia into a chessboard for superpowers. China preferred bilateral dealings, and a divided ASEAN played to its advantage. The Philippines found itself celebrated in the West, but increasingly isolated in its own neighborhood. Beneath the surface, the Malacañang Doctrine was more than defense. It was a calculated power play. The visa ban aimed to reset engagement with China, forcing negotiations on Manila's terms. With the Philippines set to lead South China Sea Code of Conduct talks, the move became a bargaining chip. It also solidified alliances with the US and the West, seeking military and economic support. The crisis was a catalyst to de-risk the economy from China, pushing for diversification and resilience. The goal, a Philippines that was secure, economically independent, and truly sovereign. Painful, yes, but a necessary surgery to cut out strategic dependency. The doctrine was a bold declaration: respect our rights or lose access. And so, the Philippines stood on the edge of a precipice. Was this the ultimate act of self-defense, or a reckless provocation? Supporters saw a nation reclaiming its destiny. Critics warned of economic ruin and regional instability. The truth lay somewhere in between, a world where peace and war, economics and security blur together. The Malacañang Doctrine forced a painful new calculus for small nations caught between giants. Would this gamble lead to a more secure, sovereign Philippines, or ignite a conflict that leaves it isolated and shattered? The answer hangs in the balance, a testament to the high-stakes future we all face. What do you think? Is this defense or destruction? Let us know in the comments, because here in Mind Matters will knowledge truly matter.